What's up, guys? It's Justin back with another Fractal Radio where we explore all of the amazing games that are coming out in Web3. Today, I'm joined by Jamie, Brandon, and Mike, the team behind BattleTabs. So welcome, guys. How are you?
Pretty good, thank you. Yeah, doing well.
Excited to be here.
Amazing. So tell me about BattleTabs. What are you guys building?
So BattleTabs is a browser-based game at the moment, and it started out as a Battleship style type of game, and we have gradually introduced new mechanics into the game. So you can think of it as Battleships plus Hearthstone. So there's special abilities, there's elements of sort of creating your own fleet, custom deck, that sort of concept. That's sort of a quick overview of the game.
Awesome. So like a browser-based Battleships. So is it a two-player game?
Yeah, so it's PvP, it's a two-player game, and it actually started out as a browser extension. And the reason for that was Mike and I, we worked on a few browser extensions before, and we thought it's kind of an interesting space. And because we both used to work in games quite a bit and love the sort of competitive side of gaming, so we thought that's an interesting platform for us to actually find new players that we can sort of introduce to this game that we're calling a sort of a casually competitive game. So we did a bit of research into the platform and decided it seems like a good first platform to go into. So the game actually started out as a new tab extension. So every time you open a new tab, if you have the game installed, you're going to see reminders and people waiting for a match, so that you can sort of jump in if you're studying or watching YouTube or something in between doing things on the browser. You can just jump in, play a few minutes, and then have a little bit of fun and then go back to what you were doing before.
So it's kind of a browser-based game that's casual, that you can kind of play while you're doing other things or in between stuff throughout your day.
Yeah.
Yeah, also one other thing that the browser extension did for us is it allowed us to solve some of the retention issue that a lot of games have, particularly casual games, is that every time you open up your new tab, the game's there instantaneously. It loads very quickly because all the assets and everything are stored locally in the extension in the browser. So the game loads up, you take your turn, bam, close the tab, off you go. Like, take your turn, play it, off you go. Now, Brandon and I'm sure can get into the details, but it actually turns out that people want to play like longer sessions than just like a 1-2 seconds thing that we discovered over time. So we added different modes to the game, which allows for longer play sessions.
How long have you been building the game?
I want to say about 2.5 years, probably. Yeah, it's been a while. It started out as sort of a small experiment, and I think once we released this sort of glorified prototype, we started getting players and people seemed to like it, and it started to get featured on various places. And we decided, well, maybe this is something that we should continue building on. So the game has evolved quite a bit, and yeah, it's been quite an interesting couple of years just building this game up and growing this community.
And is this the first game that you guys are working on kind of in a professional capacity, or you said you had built games before?
So for me, I actually started my career at EA, and I worked on the Sims series for a while. That was one of the first projects that I worked on. And then after EA, I moved on to Sony for a while, and mainly in the strategy division. And I worked projects related to PlayStation Home for a little bit before leaving and actually started the company making family-friendly games for family brands for a number of years.
Awesome. So you have like a lot of gaming experience.
I had a few years of sort of grinding it out in the industry.
What about you, Mike?
My career is not as illustrious as Brandon's. I started writing my first game, though, when I was 7 years old. And I just haven't stopped since, really. So I went to university and did computer games programming. I joined a few companies in between, gaming companies and software companies, and I worked on Worms. Do you know the title Worms?
Yeah.
I worked on that on mobile, J2ME. This is pre-smartphone era, so I'm dating myself here. And then worked at a few different companies, and then I went back and was one of the founding members at a company called Playdemic, who made a game called Golf Clash, which sold the company several times and ended up selling most recently from Warner Brothers to EA for 1.4 billion US, I think. Unfortunately, I didn't get a cut of that pie, but and I went traveling after 3 years after Playdemic. Met my now wife over here in Australia. Then we met Brandon, and we did a few things, and here we are. So I've got a bit of a game background, but a bit of a blockchain background as well at a few places, and yeah, so that's my background.
Awesome. Jamie, how'd you get involved in the project?
So I wasn't as early into game development as Brandon and Mike. Before I was working at an insurance company, and it was terrible. You didn't really see game development as being like a possible avenue. It wasn't until I think the advent of VR, the really early headsets, I was like, this is like I've been a fan of games, my whole life, but then doing something in VR, I was like, this is like the Wild West. It's completely new. Everyone's figuring everything out. So from there, that's when I started going into games, and I actually worked with Mike at one of his earlier jobs. I was just doing like quality assurance, and that's where we met. And then I always just knew of Mike, or we like met up when he does all these blog posts, and then a mutual friend was saying, "Oh, Mike's started working on this browser game," and I was having a look, and it was like really, really cool. And then, yeah, it was up until I think about 6 months ago. So I've worked on some other stuff, some VR stuff, and then recently doing a game for a research company, like a branching narrative thing. But yeah, about 6 months ago, like I said, expanding the team, and I was absolutely ready to jump on board. From working with Mike before and hearing and playing BattleTabs, is like it's an awesome experience. So yeah, I couldn't pass it up.
Awesome. So you've been developing this game for a couple of years, and like tell us about the community that you've built and what people really like about it. Like what's resonating. And did it start as a Web3 game, or are you kind of adding that later on?
So it started. So it wasn't a Web3 game in the beginning, and we started into NFTs and how we can leverage NFTs to building out this community. About a year and a half ago, I think we started looking into it towards the end of 2019, and at that time, NFT didn't have this cultural meaning. This is, obviously this was before last year, before it was over the media, and we thought it was interesting that you can have this sort of verified ownership and these transactions all happening with player-owned assets. It's quite fascinating. At that time, it was still just Mike and me working on the game as sort of full-time working on the game. So we still had a ton of things we wanted to do. So we decided we'll go back and revisit this, add a few more milestones. And around it was summer last year, we started revisiting the concept. Obviously, there's now NFT is huge, and we started to see some potentials we can use this technology for. And I think around the same time, our Discord server had also been growing, and we started to see people not just come together to the server to play the game, to talk about the game, but there's a lot of creativity within the community. People are actually creating fan art. People are modding the game. We have players hosting tournaments, player creating like stuff, and we start to realize the composability of Web3. The idea that you can have a layer of sort of foundational assets that we can use to connect all the different experiences together, including the fan projects. That was a very compelling reason for us to actually start going into the direction. So we've been working on this design and concept for a while now, and I think we're finally ready to talk about what we're planning to do.
Cool. So yeah, tell me about it. How do NFTs interact with the game?
Right. So we look at NFTs. So we're coming back a little bit. So we're releasing these collectible cards, and the idea is that by playing the game, or you can directly purchase these cards, they form a foundation of a number of different experiences that we are going to create either ourselves, or these could be experiences in games that's created by the community. And the collectible cards are the assets that links everything together. So for example, you can be playing BattleTabs, and then you can go and earn cards and earn card packs. And the cards can then be used in a separate experience. For example, Jamie is working on a new experience that's going to be in a 3D world. It has VR components to it, and you can use the cards inside of it. And then we're also talking to one of the fan projects. They've done a fantastic job creating this new game where you can also use the same cards that you can craft different cosmetics to be used in that game. So the idea is that once we have these cards, we kind of look at them as something like Pokemon cards, for example. But instead of just playing this Pokemon game, you can actually use the same cards, but in different experiences and environment. So it's a little bit abstract, but the idea is sort of like foundational assets. We're looking at things like the loot and how they're building on the assets, and how we can actually go into that direction by providing a brand that people can sort of build on top of.
That makes sense. Yeah, go ahead.
Add to that as well. Yeah. So I think as well, also it's important, I think, in any Web3 game to encourage certain things that the Web3 and blockchain is good at. And one of those things is the interoperability of like programs, smart contracts, and trading particularly. And I think that's one thing that Brandon and I are keen to in the future implement is encouraging, incentivizing trading of players outside of the game, trading assets, trading these cards, which then can then be used within, as Brandon mentioned, within the game itself and within other experiences. So I think that trading aspect is going to be very important. How we incentivize that, how we encourage that between our players, how we physically do that, how we make it so that some players require this and some people require that, and then force them to trade. And then obviously we then get secondary sales and those sort of things. There's a business monetization opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, this is like my dream, scenario of kind of how I think games will develop with blockchain. And I'll now use you guys as an example moving forward, because I've talked a lot about these concepts that you're building. I think this idea of like, that you mentioned, what's blockchain good at? It's interoperability, and it's basically putting your database or some portion of it out in the open, right? Mm-hmm. So that other people can interact with it. And this idea of like building a set of assets that you can use in multiple experiences, or other people could build experiences on top of, I think is a really powerful motivator for people to participate in your economy, like third-party game developers and other people. And I think that's a really cool concept. I want to see more people build that, so that's really exciting.
What other features do you feel like sorry, do you mind me asking these questions?
No, this is great. Let's have a discussion about it. I'd love to. Yeah,
like what are the features from other successful Web3 games have you seen that you feel are going to be particularly beneficial for the game and the players and the community, but also leverage the powers of the blockchain? What do you feel? What specifically features do you see as working quite well?
One thing that I thought was really cool that my friends at Parallels are trying to implement. So that's another kind of card-based collectible experience. starting with a card like a competitive card game, like a collectible card game, right? Like a digital CCG or something. Their plan, I'm not sure if they've implemented yet, but their plan was to actually encourage other people to make games on top of this, right? They're going to make multiple game experiences. I think they were starting with the CCG, and then their plan was to do like a FPS game. And I mean, you guys have been games a long time, so you know it's hard enough to make one game, let alone two.
Yeah.
But their plan was like that they would allow people to create experiences on top, and then if you had engagement and it created economic activity, I think you would get like a rev share of the revenue generated from the sale of the assets or trading of the assets, which I think is really kind of like an interesting inversion in the model, right? Like it encourages people, like a lot of games are like, the traditional model was like, don't use my IP. Like I monopolize my IP. Like I build up a franchise like a Fortnite or Call of Duty or whatever. I'm like the only person who can like use this IP. I think the Web3 model that is an interesting experiment is inverting it and saying like, okay, anyone should use my IP because I know I'm making a royalty sale whenever anyone transacts around this. And effectively it's growing the economic potential or like the economy of this like gaming system, right? Of NFTs and digital assets, right? And to me, that can like encourage, you could create a game that's a platform actually, and then it can be many times bigger, right? Like it's like the App Store when iOS created the App Store. Actually, with the iPhone, like originally, they did not intend to make it an open App Store. Like they were going to make all the apps, and then after the iPhone launched, and people wanted to create apps, they realized, we should make this into an App Store, and then you have Instagram and Uber and Instacart and many other obviously huge businesses that were created on top of it, and Apple just gets to collect this massive rent in the whole thing. And so I think there would be games that are like that, right? Like if you create this amazing IP that people buy into, and then you're encouraging other people to build on top of it, that increases the value of your platform.
Yeah, definitely. And to just sort of bring it back to BattleTabs, you're talking about sort of like a platform and encouraging players to also earn from within the game and become part of the platform itself. We actually have a concept for a game that maybe Brandon can talk about a little bit more, that really encourages that ownership style thing. But we also want to do some of that within BattleTabs itself. So we have a plan for a tournament feature, which is something that we run on the community anyway, but purely through Discord, where we run tournaments and players compete and they run rewards, but purely through Discord, which really encourages Discord engagement, but it's obviously not the best experience for people who don't want to be on Discord, who aren't on Discord or aware of it. So what we want to do is we want to build a tournament feature inside of the game, but one of the key features we want to do is we want to empower tournament owners to take ownership of that tournament. And then they can then set the rules for the tournament, the modes for the tournament, and critically, they can set the rewards and earn rewards themselves for hosting the tournament. So then this incentivizes tournament owners to then go out and then promote their tournament, because then they are incentivized. If their tournament does well, more players want to join, higher rewards, higher player entrance fee for the tournament. They can do the marketing for it themselves, and then it creates a tournament. It's win for us, it's win for them, it's win for the players. So I think that is a nice sort of interesting way that we can bring this concept of ownership and Web3 into the game, and almost like a play to earn, but not quite a play to earn sort of aspect within the game.
No, a tournament makes a lot more sense as a model because it's revenue generative, right? Naturally, like people are putting in some sort of entry fee or something, and so you can then distribute that entry fee between the winners, the organizer, basically the person who's doing the marketing, and then the platform or yourselves, right?
Yeah.
Versus I think these not traditional, but these play to earn schemes so far have been more of a requiring inflows of new capital from new participants who are attracted by the prospect of getting free money or getting rich from it, which I don't think is
Ponzi. No.
It's not sustainable.
No,
it's not. Yeah. But I think this is the tournament model is really interesting. Yeah.
One of the key things we always so Mike always talks about wanting people to come for the game but stay for the community. So community aspect, even before we started this whole Web3 journey, has been part of it. and we think about how when we talk about community as a platform, where creative community, then the stuff that they create value, and that value goes back into the collectible cards. And even if let's say with a single player experience, that release it to Steam might not get any traction. Like it might just be an experience to pay for it. But when it's back into the cards, because it's an additional experience that card can have, then instantly it's adding value back to the cards. So it's value sort of directly as soon as it connects back. And so it sort of allows for experimental games. This is my can actually through the system encourage new, even like indie style games to be connected into this world. So now there's these kind of games, more people to get involved in making games and experimenting with different game design. And I used to organize the Seattle Unity user group, and through just running events and then creating this developer community, I saw the value being created from people exchanging knowledge and collaborating, and that's the kind of thing that we want to create within this BattleTabs universe, where we do plan to have events releasing tools for people to play games and like connect back into this easily.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to see what people make. So tell us about the first NFT collection drop, or how you guys are thinking about releasing this.
So the first thing we're doing at the moment, so we're doing this card, we're dropping this seed card as introduction 2, 3, 4 our players. So the initial idea is have this card that we are to the most loyal fans of BattleTabs, so we can tell them about and get them onboarded to Web3. And at the same time, we talked to the guys at EVIO, and then this tournament that they've done on Fractal. So we got really interested in aspects of it. So we started talking to you guys and decided that it would be fun to have a tournament as well. So any new players, especially that are more Web3 native, they can come and they can participate in getting the specific card. And our plan is people who hold this card will have some advantages for Genesis set. So there's a set of cards that's coming. So who hold the C card will be whitelisted for that. And we do plan to have some special sort of features in the game and in a few other things that we're creating, where people who hold this card will have special sort of benefits in the game as well.
Awesome. So do we have a date for the tournament? I'm excited for that.
So I believe the tournament starts on Monday. So just it's coming Monday, or maybe Sunday night, for 2 weeks. And the 20 high score players that have the link will be given a silver whitelist token, and they can mint the card at the end of the month.
Awesome. Cool. So where can people find out more about BattleTabs and start playing?
So you can go to BattleTabs.com, and then that's where you can learn a bit more about the game. We share news about the game, and you can see some of the community activities on there, and links to our Discord. If you go to BattleTabs.io, you can play the game directly, and also find BattleTabs on the Chrome web store. So if you go to the sort of storefront for the browser, the Chrome browser, the extensions, type in BattleTabs, and you should be able to find if you're interested in having the browser extension version of the game as well.
All right, I'm installing it right now. Okay. I'm going to play the tutorial after this. Looks fun already. All right. Cool. Anything else you guys want to get out there while we're recording this?
There is a really cool thing that we're working on, and that's within the BattleTabs world, but it's not part of BattleTabs at the moment. So this is we're calling it experience. We haven't got all your NFTs, and it turns them into cards, and then you're in this pirate ship environment, and you can sort of pick up the cards, you can look at your NFTs, and we want to create an experience that mimics real world collectible cards. So we want you to be able to kind of digitally, physically run with your NFTs, and obviously our own collectible cards will be supported in this as well. This is almost ready there, so we'll be making about this probably within the next 2 weeks before the mint, and it's looking pretty good. So we're pretty excited about that. And Jamie is also working on a VR version of this, so we're sort of entering the metaverse in a way. But yeah, it's another thing that we're working on.
I think as well, just to add to that as well, Brandon, I think as well what we really want to do is turn this digital cards experience, which is not very tactile. All you do is you see like an image of it on the screen, and turn it into something that feels more physical. It feels like we've earned these things in the game. They've got inherent value for not just the value that they are, but the way that they look. And you want to be able to like almost like pick them up and have a look at them and see what they are. And so we want to build this experience where you can sit down, you can have a look at these cards, you put in your blockchain address, and then they just fall down from the sky, and then they're on the table, and you can arrange them. You can put them into collection books like Pokemon, like you can collect Pokemon, and then you can sit down across the table from somebody else. This is in the future. And then you can then perhaps trade them with the people. You can say, here you go, here, do you want my Charizard for your Squirtle or whatever? And then the blockchain trade happens at that point. We also want to potentially partner with other studios to allow, because obviously the blockchain is interoperable, so you can just put in any address, but we would like to be able to offer it to other studios for their games, and then they can provide higher quality assets than what is on the blockchain. So maybe they've got cards or NFTs themselves, and then we partner with them, and they can provide high quality models, which we then use instead of the thing, instead of the NFT, just the PNG that's on the blockchain. And then they can have their own little experience that we partner with. And then you as a player, as a user, it's a great experience because now you've got all of your treasure, all of your loot in one place, and then you can collect them and arrange them into books and that kind of stuff. So we feel like it could be like a really nice meta experience around various games.
Cool. It's like a visual collection interface, kind of like what Hearthstone has, but like a more 3D, more built out version.
Yes, definitely. We're definitely modeling a lot of our sort of like book collection thing on Hearthstone's spell collections, on card collections. Yeah. Pretty nice interface.
Awesome. Love it. I can't wait to see it. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining me on the podcast. And it's like I'm so tempted. It's like I want to click over here and play the game now. So I'm going to go do that.
Awesome.
All right.
Yeah, a lot of our players say they play it during Zoom calls as well.
Yeah,
Zoom is
sure.
another platform. It might be a good distribution.
Yeah,
you should make it a Zoom store extension. So it's just flagrant. Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, Justin.
See you later.
See you.